Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hey, welcome to Boggy Talk. Thanks for joining us as we kick off the month of September.
Wow.
I'll see you in September. Actually, or listen to you in September, as we can say it. But hey, thanks for tuning in. Before we dive into what we're talking about today, checking in with James Ross. How you doing, buddy?
I feel like September is like one of the only months where like in Florida, you're kind of like jealous of other people because like in December, you're jealous on Christmas Day that it's snowy other places, but not the rest because you don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah.
But here it's like
still
so hot.
And it's still humid, it's nasty, and it's gross, and you're still sweating outside.
We can still be in the pool.
Yeah, and the tourists are gone, so you
that
can go
is
to the
true.
beach.
Except for this past weekend.
Yeah,
they were
Labor
here
Day,
this past
crazy,
weekend, but I was gone.
Yeah. September, I love September. I really love October because October's like a little paradise here weather-wise. But so we're looking forward to that. But
I feel it in my bones.
That's right.
In my 40-year-old bones.
That's right. You start to feel things in your bones in your 40s.
But I'm good, man. I'm good. We got kids sports, kids school, all that's full swinging, and
football season kicked off. It's exciting. And hey, some cool things with the church. We wrapped up this past week, Alec Todd, and we wrapped up Through All Generations, our series. And it's just the beginning of all the great things that are coming in generationally. This coming Sunday. That's right. I caught it from last week. But really kicking off this, jumping back into the book of Mark and finishing out the book of Mark through the rest of the year, a new series. It is finished, but it's not over.
I think it isn't over, but it is finished.
I don't know. I have to look at it. I think it's finished.
This discussion
all right, so we will have that settled. We'll have that settled before Sunday.
You doing okay?
I'm doing fine, man. Tomorrow is my birthday.
Woo, man, 44?
Yeah, isn't that great? I know.
That's a cool number.
I feel so advanced in age. It's definitely
44.
I'm definitely in the mids now. That's right. So, every year.
Fia.
Yeah, you hit 40 and you talk about
any
like
other languages?
I can't remember it in Korean.
She. That's Japanese.
There you go. Good job.
So I did Japanese, German, and Spanish and English.
Wow, you're so smart. Right? I'm so glad you're
That's all I got.
Multilingual pastor here.
Yeah, except for not Hebrew and Greek.
I
didn't learn how to count. They didn't teach you how to count.
You don't teach those numbers. You don't learn that. And anyway, so let's dive in to what we're talking about this week. So I got a hot topic, we got a question, and we got a game. So our hot topic is something that is actually pretty sad to be talking about. But this has been kind of news broke of this past week or last week. We're talking about the Village Church and Pastor Matt Chandler, who made an announcement to his church that he was stepping down for a season, or stepping aside for a season of restoration, and telling his church about an inappropriate relationship that he had with a female church member online through direct messaging. In his statement, he said it was not romantic or sexual in nature, but that it did give way to coarse joking and coarse language and inappropriate joking, I think. Yeah. So we just wanted to talk about that because Matt Chandler is
because it's the juicy gossip.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's give our opinion. And amidst the 4 million other opinions out there, but we do want to talk about it because it is a relevant issue because he is a very influential pastor. Yeah, and he is a Southern Baptist pastor. Their church is a Southern Baptist church. Yeah.
Many of our church members listen to Matt Chandler.
Oh, and I have listened to him.
They tell me I'm not as good a preacher. They don't say that, but they say that.
People are like, you're like animated like Matt Chandler. I'm like, thanks.
You kind of are, yeah.
I'm
you're tall
animated.
and lanky. That's
right.
That really is it. I feel like that's like stereotyping. They're like, you guys all look the same. Tall, lanky.
That's people. Right. Yeah, and you all like to say, there you go. But I don't yell as much as he does.
That's true. You don't.
Let's talk about this. So there was there's of course a spectrum of responses, and here's what we don't know the full story on either side, and so we didn't even acknowledge that, but we do want to talk about how do we respond in a situation like that.
I think that's important. We're not actually trying to give a lot of commentary on what happened because
we don't know
Matt Chandler. I actually do know some people who know him very well, but I don't know him.
You always know people who know people. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, you're the people, it's
and I know, I'm not a member of the church. I don't know the woman. Like, we don't really know much about it. So, the fact that a lot of people are commenting and speculating on this situation really is not cool.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's the day and age we live in. I think that's, I think that's something we can observe from this and learn from this is like, it's so crazy how people just are ready, like they're looking for something to affirm their position they already hold.
Right.
Like those who are defending him because they like the guys who preach with his style and have his theology. Like you see that. And then you also see the people who want to take every prominent pastor down.
And, exactly.
Who are like, yes, this is like, that's strange, right?
It is. And I think
maybe strange is a soft word to use there.
Yeah. What word would you use? It's
sinful.
It's just, there is. And I think, there are people who want to, on both sides, sensationalize this because they have a platform and this is what feeds their platform. And we do live in a day where, everyone has a microphone. And I say that ironically because we're talking
on
into
microphones.
But, in our job, what we want to do is help people like our people really understand how should we respond and how do we as a church, how do we as people even protect situations like this, work to prevent situations like this from happening, and really what is the response? And because I think you can find any position on this, but I do think we do have to start with like this is public. He admitted it publicly. Now, you could ask questions, and I think they're fair questions of, he was confronted by this in February, and why did it take this long? Again, we don't know. We don't know how the church handled this. We don't. And so we don't need to jump into that part of the conversation. But the question is how do we as pastors, and not just pastors, but how do we as Christians prevent situations like this from happening?
Well, I think that there are definitely things that, because we don't know all the information, don't really add up about this, right? Like,
is there more to it?
If he didn't do anything wrong, then why is there disciplinary leave? You know what I mean? Like if it was just like kind of silly, like what he did, like he shouldn't have, but it's not like wrong. And I think this is the first thing I would say is that like we have to overshare almost now when we're in positions of authority,
right?
Like when something like this happens, like we have to be crystal clear. Now they could be trying to protect the individual, but again, I just feel like there's just such a lack of clarity that it creates more confusion and room for speculation. And so I do think we have to be as just transparent as we can be. I know we've had even here, nothing morally or anything of that, but just like a person or two who would have an issue in the church and, they're talking to other people and I'm like, hey, let's just bring it before the whole deacon body, let's just so it's all out there,
be clear, bring clarity to the situation.
Give people the opportunity to ask me any questions they want. I'll answer those questions. Like, so to me, I feel like, and again, I don't know the situation. In time, maybe I'll understand, but it feels like there's just not enough clarity and transparency from their leadership. It's too vague.
Right.
So almost like if they were going to say, they almost shouldn't have brought it forward yet until they had a more clear plan. You know what I mean?
It's and we don't know. And I think, one side would say, looking at what you're saying, the lack of clarity, that this, by their statement, by the statement released and what he said, it seems like it's just a breaking online of the quote unquote Billy Graham rule.
Right.
And so for there to be disciplinary action by the church, like there probably is more to the story. Now, that, of course, is speculation. Yeah. So I think what we have to say is, okay, so what is wisdom here in terms of relationships? And then, because if it is simply that, then this seems like, wow, this is a really extreme reaction to simply a friendly conversation. But so that's why I say, well, there's probably more to the story because it's not simply a friendly conversation. I think we do have to say, like, where's the line here? Brothers, since we're called to be family, brothers and sisters. So what do we do?
Yeah. So before we move on to that, I'll just say, so if it legitimately was just, he shouldn't have been messaging on a regular basis a person. They should have just said, hey, he's on disciplinary action because this is the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it should have just been super clear. But so purity culture, right? Like, people have all these problems with purity culture, the Billy Graham rule, those kind of things. I understand the spirit of like purity culture was a little oppressive. Purity culture was a little cringy.
It made things weird that shouldn't have been weird.
Yeah.
It made exactly.
Made an idol out of like, making a true love waits commitment. You know what I mean? But again, it's another one of those things where just because we don't like some aspects of it, we can't get rid of all of it, right?
Exactly.
Like purity culture, part of that is in the scripture. So yeah, and I think also when you're in a position of leadership and influence, there is a heightened sense of perception,
right?
That matters. We talked about on that before, like. I don't want to be perceived as anything.
Right.
It's so funny. I don't think they would mind me sharing the story, but I won't say their names. But the day this broke, my wife and I were meeting for lunch with a couple in our church. And I rolled in late. So I assumed, hey, everybody's here. And so I was looking around and the server waved me over and knew I was looking. And so there's the wife, of the couple sitting at the table. Right. He's like, here you go. And I was like, so I'm going to go to the restroom until everybody gets here, just because, again, nothing wrong. It's not that I am worried about something happening at the dinner, at the lunch table at Peppers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to sponsor us, Peppers, there's a plug.
Hey, there's a shout out. We both ate lunch there the same day for different reasons.
That's right. And you were there spying.
That's right.
You were there spying. See, you would have reported it. But I was like, that would have been weird if somebody just walked by, saw me sitting there having lunch with this female, and again, they may have not said anything, may have thought anything. Why? Why even create that situation? So I think there's the perception part of it, right? And I know you care about that
absolutely.
too, right?
You have to how does this, so there are times when so most of my communication with people, with church related, I try to do over email because it's, there, but then there are times when it's you got to text somebody. And so if I'm coordinating, I'll use this as an example, somebody on worship team, I'm like, hey, I forgot to tell you, sing this. I'll text that to somebody and that's the end of a conversation. But if I'm I use this example, Christy and I were talking about this. There was a song I heard recently. It reminded me of just the message of it, just something that was the heart of one of the people on worship team, who's also a friend of mine and Christy. And it's like, hey, I want to send this to this person. And so what did I do? I texted her, but I also texted Christy in that because I'm like, hey, because that is a line of hey, this is my sister in Christ, but we have to be aware of the positions we're in, that it's if I send a message that, hey, this song made me think of you, and this person is a mature person, but we just have to leave as best as we can with no room for any ambiguity. I thought of you because I know this is your heart, but it's just better and wise to either include my wife or that person's husband. Yeah. In that text.
Which people would say you are whatever you are, whatever the word. I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, you're being overly sensitive. I'm like, well,
patriarchal.
And I'm like, no, I really just want to be responsible. Yeah. Because this is my sister, and it's just it's part of being above reproach in those. So things.
I mean, why even why not? Why even go there? Why even, the human condition. You've seen, don't be an idiot. You have seen look at the news.
It's just wise.
We are in people's lives. We see so many affairs. We see so many emotional affairs. Why play with it?
Just go above and beyond. And I think what you're hitting on is and then the flip side of that is a lot of people would say, well, if you're doing that, you're basically scorning all women as a temptress. No. I believe very few would, but and you're all or every man is just looking at women. No, that is not the case. But why even leave room for assumptions because of the culture we live in? Yeah, and it is a very difficult tension to manage, and so it's just best to just be above reproach. And so it's just wise.
And so it's not even just this issue. Obviously this is probably the most pressing issue in light of the topic, but if I'm having a conversation with someone about some kind of conflict in the church and then they begin to kind of twist my words, I'm not saying their motivations are even bad or anything. So back in the Old Testament, and really back in the day, you had to have two witnesses that made you guilty of something, right? Right. So if somebody just said, hey, Justin is, a heretic because of this, and he's had these conversations, somebody else needed to corroborate.
Yes.
With that. Well, now today, especially as a white male in a position of leadership, you are like guilty till proven innocent a lot of times. And so I'm just like, I'm always like, I just gave another friend who's a pastor who he's having a conflict with a pastor on the staff, and the pastor on the staff wanted to meet with him. And like, I was like, bro, I wouldn't meet with him alone. Like,
you just need somebody else there to be, because you get into, you said this, I said this.
Yeah. And really, if somebody sinned against you and you've talked to them and, you know, they have, I mean, Matthew says this and they don't respond, like, you don't want to do that alone anymore. And so again, I'm not saying someone sinned against you in the Instagram messaging thing. I don't really Instagram message, just so you know. So, but I mean, I'm not a prude about this. Like, I have sent people.
Right.
Like, there's a difference. Like, we have a bunch of mutual friends. If your wife, which I don't think she would, but if she texted me and said, hey, I'm picking up the boys or whatever. Dude. Okay. Right. But if we were texting constantly about how the boys are doing in school, like,
right. That's like
And again, I'm not saying either one of us even have any, but like, why not just include you in that? Yes. And you're like,
right.
You probably don't even read it, but still, like,
right.
Why do we have to do that? Like, why do we have to message privately?
Yeah. It's just put it out there, and it's just a lot easier, I think. Yeah, we are called to these standards, and it's the world we live in, and it's a tension to manage, and we want to be above reproach. And so I'd say for any level of leadership, even in the church, you know, if we've got life group leaders, like, this is how we should handle these situations. Yeah. Like, that's why, you know, if we have a guy who's the primary leader, teacher of a life group, his wife is included in our leadership, in the life group leadership, because we know, we also know who's doing most of the like relational work in that group, right? And we need to acknowledge that. And I mean, that's not every group, but let's be honest, but we need to acknowledge that, but also like, let's loop everybody into this, because I mean, that's really, I think, a healthier picture of the body of Christ when we're just like, we can eliminate as much room for assumptions and error and indiscretion and sin. Like, let's be proactive, and I don't have an issue with that.
I will say 2 closing thoughts of this topic. One is, if you want to try to be Mr. or Mrs. Progressive and you can do all these things, you go on with your bad self. But let me tell you this. I have already experienced, and other people would give you validity to this, people constantly go too far by doing this. So be progressive if you want, but don't be surprised if you end up, down a road that you don't want to be down. And I forgot the other one.
Well, then
so
I'm sure
that was a good
if you remember later
thought,
on, hey, there you go. So if you got you just further clarification, just let us know. You know, we're happy to talk a little bit more. It's hard to condense all that down into a 10-minute soundbite conversation,
but it was 15.
Yeah, we're over. All right, so we'll make this next one short. So questions. What question you got?
Oh, goodness.
Somebody asked you this.
We got to keep this one to less than 5 minutes. What do we think about student loan forgiveness that just happened?
Man.
Yes.
Man, so...
Because there's not a lot of opinions on this out there either, right?
This is not a dangerous question for someone to be like, oh, I can't believe they said that. So, what do I think? I mean, my gut reaction is that if I had student loans, I'd be like, sweet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, joking aside, I think, I don't know. I'm not
So, let's quickly comment on the actual issue and then talk about some things.
Student loan forgiveness up to $10,000 for federal student loans. You know, what's interesting to me is like there's so much politics involved in this, and we have to
No.
But I'm like, part of me is like, they keep saying like these predatory loan practices. I'm like, but it's only for federal loans. So if you're like spinning that as someone in politics, you're admitting that the federal government is being predatory. So that aside, we can move on.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, so there's a principle, like, a lot of people were like, how can a Christian object to this? Because our debt's been paid by someone else. Like, that is, I think, not doing true justice to the way of the gospel. And that's kind of being heavy-handed. On the flip side of that, like, the principle, like, not the nuances and the economics of who's paying all that stuff, but the principle of someone's debt being paid by someone else, that principle alone should not make a Christian bristle. Now, I'm not talking about the nuances of this case, but as a Christian, we can just say, hey, a debt was paid that you didn't know. Wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the primary issue I think about is the whole system is broken, right? Yeah. Like, the whole, like, fact that you have tons of people who have hundreds of $1,000s as loan who are making $40,000 to $50,000 a year for the rest of their life. Like, And it's not any other loan is eventually like wiped away. Like there's negative impacts on your credit, but this is a loan that never goes away. Mm-hmm. And so it's this very unique situation that really is a dumpster fire in our culture. And so anything we're basically throwing Band-Aids on bullet holes, as Taylor Swift says, until we figure out what we want to do about it. So I would say that, this is just a way of dealing with it. And it's just probably not the best way of dealing with it. Like there should be more like, here's how you qualify for this. Here's what makes you eligible for it. Like we have, public service, those kind of things. So again, I just think it's very easy to jump on whoever. If you're a Republican, it's easy to jump on Democrats. If you're a Democrat, it's easy to jump on Republicans because it just fuels your fire.
Yeah.
So again, I wouldn't do it the way Biden is doing it or his administration is doing it. But again, there's got to be something figured out here. You can't.
Right. I think that's what everybody has to acknowledge. Something's got to give in this system. Whether or not this is the right way, that's what people. I agree with you.
And so people are saying like, well, we're taking on that. Well, some of these people took out $50,000 in loans, which are supposed to be paid back in, I think, 10 years and have paid like $50,000 in interest and still owe $30,000 because they've not been able to pay it off. So it's not just as simple as like, oh, the government is making you pay $10,000. So it's more complicated and it's more nuanced. Yep. And if you don't, if you don't allow room for the nuance in your conversation, it reveals your heart. You're dogmatic in your heart.
Yeah.
Also, I think my friend Dean and Sarah said this the other day on Twitter, or somebody else, maybe he retweeted it, said, anybody you disagree with is made in the image of God. Remember that.
Yeah. So how you disagree is important.
I know, like, goodness. Absolutely what you said. Like, you cannot say the other side, well, Jesus forgave a debt, so how can we? That is not
right. Because there is like, we are also accountable for that debt. So like, exactly.
And this isn't a personal debt, right? Like we give not expecting to get back, right?
Right.
That's a personal law. That's not a,
Yeah, exactly. And the whole, we're transferring to, getting the economics of it all. And I'll just be honest, I'm like, that's over my head. I just know like, hey, it's complicated and we got to sort it out. And this is maybe not the best way, but what do we got to do? I don't know.
And a great point is a lot of these people were conservatives who took out PPP loans and let the government, I mean, there are churches and businesses in our community who receive millions of dollars from our federal government.
And exactly. And it was forgiven.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great point.
Way more than the total of all these student loans. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's important. So a principle about debt, like we, Bible says, borrow slave to the lender. As Christians, we should strive to not go into debt. I mean, there are times when it may be necessary. And so there's no judgment in that. We should strive not to. But I would say that if you're in a position where you don't need something, even if it's free, maybe as a Christian, the principle should be, I don't take, and I think, going back to PPP loans, like, so when COVID happened, like our church took a loan because we had no clue how it was going to impact. But I will tell you, and I think it's okay to share this, like as soon as the church, like leadership realized we don't need this money from the government, we gave it back, like sent it back. And so could we have held on to it? Yeah. Could we have had that debt forgiven? Yeah. But as leadership, it's like, you know what? Like, we don't need this. It's not the principle, how we're going to operate. And I think what we want to do, that is a model for how, as individuals, we should try to live our lives when it comes to money and debt.
Right. That's good. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think I'm done.
I mean, we could talk more, but honestly, it's just people will be like,
I think we made everyone happy and offended everyone at the same time.
That's our goal with Boggy, because it's Boggy. That's what Boggy things do.
Let's just play a game.
All right. Hey, game time.
It's my turn to be in charge of the game, so it's going to be good.
All right, here we go. Oh, thanks a lot.
Sorry. Okay. Even though a lot of people like the 2 truths and a lie game, and even though I told you it was lame.
Yeah, so, you're like, that one, and I was like, people are going to appreciate this.
Yeah. So. They just liked hearing that Michael and Dana were so scandalous and kissed before they got married. Okay, so today we're playing a game called What's the Word?
What's the Word?
And I'm going to say something, give you the blank, and you got to fill in a word. And then I'll give you a word also, and we can kind of give commentary about it too. So I'll let you go, and then I'll go. We'll try to keep each of these to about a minute and a minute and 2 minutes. So
gotcha, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's get going. All right. The thing I am most looking forward to about fall is blank.
Everyone talking about pumpkin spice latte.
No, one word.
Just kidding.
Word.
I was a joke because I can't stand that. Compound word. College football.
That's cheating. The thing I'm most
football.
looking to about fall is football.
There you
Okay,
go.
football.
Because I love watching football with my kids.
I think you knew what I was going to say. The thing I'm most looking to about fall is pumpkin. I am a basic white girl. I love pumpkin spice. You know what I'm drinking for lunch today? A pumpkin spice protein shake.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I don't hate it.
September's tomorrow.
I don't hate it. I just think it's way overrated.
It is way overrated, but it's so delicious. Seasonal. See, I like seasonal for it. People that do it year round. Come on, people.
Yeah.
All right. Churches saying that they have an online campus is blank.
False advertising. No, just kidding. Gimmicky.
Ooh, explain.
Well, I just think so I get it. So I'm not opposed. So we stream services online, but an online campus, what you're saying is this online presence. And I get it. Digital age and people do find community online. I get that. It does reach some people, but nothing. I mean, the scripture is clear that we shouldn't forsake the meeting together. And I think a lot of churches, I think even if it's well-intentioned, it becomes hey, look at us. We're so cool and relevant.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, so I'm not saying it's all bad. No, not at all. There's certainly redeeming things about it. But I think most churches that I see who advertise the online campus, not join us online because you can't be here this Sunday. It's this is your I think you're trying to sell too hard.
Yeah, I'm going to change what I had written down. Churches saying that they have an online campus is consumeristic.
Ooh, good word.
Basically, we're giving a product that people will buy and they're buying it, so we just keep selling it to them. Again, not talking about people who can't meet physically, but we've really made it convenient for people. And we're like, we'll make it feel like you actually have community here, even though you don't. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's good in it, like you said, people who can't, and it can be a source of community. However, that's not how churches usually advertise it.
I got to give a preface to this for our new Boggy Talk listeners and people who aren't familiar with Christian culture. Mark Driscoll is the former pastor of Mars Hill Church in Seattle that basically came crushing down because of prideful leadership and narcissism and all these things. So here it is. It is blank that Mark Driscoll tweeted, "If you want to finally confront the most dangerous and hurtful person in your life, find a mirror."
Projecting.
Ooh.
Projecting.
That is psychological.
Yeah, I mean, my first word is ironic, but I'm that's not weighty enough because I'm that's when you have an issue, but you're going to pretend that it's everybody else's issue so that no one looks at you. That is he is projecting his issue on everybody else. So
I said that it is Hoganish. As in Hulk Hogan.
I was going to say Hulk Hogan.
Yes, who's just so narcissistic. Narcissism isn't enough. So I had to say Hoganish, Probably the real Hogan, but also more so the character.
The caricature,
Hogan.
And the character. Oh, man.
And I think that's a great comparison because Hogan started I remember his lawsuit and he was saying they were defaming the brand and not the person. And that's kind of Driscoll-like too.
That is man, that just reminds me of the WWE. I grew up watching WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was good back then.
Yeah, when it was real.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. When I see a shirt that says, "All I need is a little bit of coffee and a whole lot of Jesus," or similar, I want to blank.
What do when I see that shirt, I want to, I don't know. I'm just lame. Eye roll. I'm like, oh, come on.
It's 2 words, but that's okay.
You made it's hyphenated.
Okay. Because
I'm so most people who wear that just think it's funny, and that's not necessarily I'm trying to make a statement. Yeah, it's not their heart, but I'm oh, come on. There's just more to it.
Right? Think about it.
It's the new version of the 80s and 90s, let's take a candy bar and make it a Christian shirt, Reese's becomes the Jesus logo. And, it's kind of the 2020 version of that. So
I said, when I see a shirt that says all I need is a little bit of coffee and a whole lot of Jesus or similar, I want to caffeinate. Because I like coffee so much that the word coffee reminds me of
I need
the fact that I want some coffee.
It's like Pavlov. You hear it and you're all right, I'm Pavlov's dog. I heard it. I smelled it. I want it.
I probably also eye roll, but thanks for the reminder that I need some coffee. Okay. 3 more. James throwing out his back the week he turned 40 is blank.
That is ironic. I'm just going to say that's because you've talked about turning 40 for a while, and you've given Michael, who turned 40 2 days before you, such like funny grief, not like, it was, it is just ironic.
Yeah, I said it's humbling.
I think Alanis Morissette should have written that in her song. That's right. What'd you say?
Humbling.
Yeah, it is humbling.
Yeah, it was humbling.
Yeah, I've hurt my back before, and it is miserable.
Second time in my life. These chairs aren't helping with my back. All right. Having to help 6 children with homework makes me feel blank.
Verklempt. I'm coffee talk. I'm feeling verklempt. That's SNL.
Wow.
Full of all kinds of emotions.
That's a big word.
Because literally last night, like I got home from rehearsal and it was like 7:45, 8, and jumped right into helping home. Like I was starving and I like scarfed down some dinner and then jumped right into helping. We have 3 middle schoolers in our house right now, plus a high schooler.
Me too. No high schooler though.
And it's 3 middle. And they're wonderful, but homework time is not wonderful. And they all have different questions. And it was just late before I could help them, so we were dealing with all the emotions. So it's funny. I texted Eliza after I finished helping with her because we had some big emotions from other kids. She texted me like, before she went to bed while I was still helping kid. She's like, "Thanks for helping my homework," and I was like, "Thank you, baby, and thank you for not being a jerk about it."
Yeah, that's so funny.
She laughed because we had some jerkiness going on. It is just because also. You're helping kids, and then for our house, like the 2 little ones are running around. And we're like, we got to get them in bed. And then one child's like, "Hey, what about this tomorrow?" And you're like, "Now's not the time to ask me because I'm doing algebra and I got to remember how to do this. Negative exponents."
It's a good quote.
Yeah,
makes me feel impatient. Mostly the part of show your work. I'm like, I don't need to show my work.
I did it in my head.
I figured it out.
That's right.
In my head, and of course, my kids, especially my boys, are like same. So and that was pretty much me. And
that is another, one of our kids is like, "Why do I have to show this? When do I ever need this in life?" Okay, you just have to do it. I know. I agree with you. I agree in principle. However, right now you have to do it. Yeah,
exactly. It's good. It's a good learning lesson. All right, last one. I am blank that we are getting back into the Gospel of Mark.
Pumped. I'm pumped because, man, the end of Mark, it is been the new series. It's just like, it is the cross, the resurrection, but it is. It's like, and it's all the events leading up to the cross, but I am pumped to get back in the book of Mark because it's just good.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, yes. I mean, I enjoyed the Intergen series, and I do like that we occasionally as a church take a moment to focus on something. The Lord is just, it's not like these are never things where I'm like, I just feel like I need to grind, really got a gear to grind or something. Mm-hmm. It's like something the Lord's doing in our body, like Liv sent this one. We're going to do a generosity thing next year, but like, I think that my wheelhouse, I just love plugging through the scriptures and seeing how it's so cool, how much it speaks to today. Right. And it's like we're together in it, right?
It's cool too. It's like, so our life groups all did this intergenerational study. So it was obviously aligned to what we're talking about on Sundays. But don't you also love how, like, when we're going through books of the Bible and other life groups are doing different studies and they're like, hey, like, our conversation in life group and the pastors are studying isn't not from the book of Mark, but it's lining up perfectly with what we're doing in what you said this Sunday or something we said. And so I love that, like the Holy Spirit's at work.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's
so,
good stuff.
Hey, if you've got questions, send us questions. We would love to answer or at least take a stab at.
Or confuse you more.
Yeah. And getting in the mud, getting boggy, getting dirt on us. We're going to go clean ourselves off from the mud of this episode. But send us questions. Let us know what you're thinking, and tune in next time.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.